The stories of Adam and Eve are rich in meaning, both on the surface and deep within their symbology. These teachings have been picked over and interpreted by countless scholars over millennia, and they still yield truths to those of us who read them today. I want to look at the story in Genesis 3, where God has discovered that Adam and Eve have eaten of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. There are, of course, multiple angles and themes in this passage, but I want to look at the idea of the human psyche and the cause of original sin, particularly how it is born from the temptation of a false salvation rooted in fear. We are told in Genesis that Eve is made from Adam. The two are formed from the one. This is like the mind, where the unconscious, feminine, and the conscious, masculine mind are two aspects that form a whole. Now, in the temptation in the garden, Eve, representing the passive feminine aspect of the psyche, has tempted Adam with the desire to eat the fruit. Adam, representing the active masculine aspect, is overcome with the temptation, turns the idea into reality and sins. So in this we are shown a path to sin is through the impure desire of the unconscious mind, which influences the conscious mind to take imperfect action. For example, in modern life, we are in constant contact with social media, movies, newspapers, books, gossip, and 1,000 other kinds of entertainment and media. All of these subtly influence the way in which our unconscious perceives itself and the world. It is no surprise when Adam suddenly becomes aware and ashamed of his nakedness. This is the same as someone seeing an influencer on social media saying how you need to have the best clothes, the fittest body, or a perfect face to find a suitable partner. This is of course a lie, but the lie goes straight to our unconscious mind, which does not have the power to discern truth like our conscious, and given enough time to cook in the back of the mind, our own internal Eve begins to suggest to us that maybe we aren't good enough to find a partner. Maybe we do need a facelift or the newest fashions, and now the conscious mind is attacked by both the inner voice and the external world, and will thus surely fall to temptation. So now we can see how the external world, the serpent, can tempt Eve, the unconscious, who persuades Adam, the conscious will, to make poor decisions, sin. The fear of death and false salvation. The serpent can also be symbolically seen as the human reptilian brain, the cerebellum, where our oldest and most basic instincts are housed. This part of the brain drives our need for survival and is wired to be fear-based. It is constantly scanning for danger so that we aren't killed by the things in our environment. As it is the serpent that tempts Eve, we can see how symbolically all temptation is then rooted in this fear of death in one way or another. Take, for example, the sin of greed. Greed is triggered by a false need to accumulate wealth driven by the fear of not having enough. In this mindset, we feel that if we do not have enough, then the risk is that we might starve to death or be left homeless and die of the cold, or be preyed upon by the beasts of the unknown wild. So to guard against this, we might feel compelled to hoard wealth, even to the detriment of those around us. The fear of death from our reptilian brain pushes us towards selfish acts in an attempt to survive. With this in mind, it makes sense that Eve had no reason to fear the serpent, or to assume it was lying, or meant her harm, as it was merely suggesting a way in which she might escape death. The serpent is offering Eve salvation, but the salvation is false, as it is based on a fear of death rather than through a love of God, which is later offered by Christ. Interestingly, our modern understanding of mental states suggests that all emotion is rooted in a duality of love and fear. Whatever emotion we feel at any one time can be derived from one of these dualistic principles. Where the serpent offers salvation through fear, God offers salvation through love. The cycle of sin, the serpent temptation, strikes at the heel, mobility of the offspring, the product of the temptation. The offspring, the product of the temptation, will rush the head, the origin of the serpent, the temptation. All of these symbolic metaphors are fine for the intellect to meditate on, but we must be able to put them into use in everyday life. And so I propose that the point of this story is that one cannot find salvation through fear. If the fear of death is the primary entry point of the temptation of sin, then it is imperative that we accept and embrace our own mortality. How then does one find salvation? If true salvation is through the love of Jesus Christ, then love should be the way in which we understand salvation, that all things that come to pass through God are formed in love, and that in loving Him we can trust Him. In doing this, we can let go of trying to control our destiny as Adam and Eve did, but accept what God gives us and allow Him to work His will through us. Through this loving acceptance, we are saved from both our fear of living a full life and our fear of dying the hardest death. With all this in mind, the holy prayer of Don Dolindo's Surrender Novena comes to mind. Oh Jesus, I surrender myself to you. Take care of everything. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. And if you want more content on understanding the symbolic and metaphorical interpretations to Scripture, subscribe now so you don't miss the next video. God bless you.